great time it is every time on Delta Television, the People's Pride. Now, every other weekday, right here, towards the hour of 12 o'clock, the hour of noon precisely, we have great conversation right here on State Television on the program, The Faculty. On this program, we discuss about recent happenings that has concerned Nigeria, sometimes bedeviled Nigeria. Now, in the house of the conversation with me are two wonderful gentlemen, and our conversation today is about the security chief reshuffling by the president. It happened on the 4th of October. Until now, the conversation has continued all around the media and even social media. My name is Francis Ufulue. I am not the man to have the conversation. I'll just prompt the conversation. Two gentlemen are here seated. Henry Nwanze. Good to have you right here again.
It's always a pleasure being here, and good to be here this Wednesday afternoon.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you. Also, Engineer Meshach Oza. It's good to have you too.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and when you talk about the faculty, we have to look for men with high reasoning faculty and men who are concerned about the Federal Republic of Nigeria, so to speak. Now, let's go straight to the agenda for today, which is about the whole reshuffling, so to speak. Nigeria spent roughly 3.25 trillion naira on defense this year, yet over 7,800 violent deaths were recorded nationwide. Now, to Henry Nwanze, do you think these appointments represent a genuine shift towards accountability in results, or is it just another political statement?
Well, for starters, I want to say it is not strange to us, the reshuffling of service chiefs. It's something we've seen over time with various administrations. And I know some persons have given a stick to the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for this reshuffling, even when there have been various conspiracy theories as to why this reshuffling now. But I must also give credit to him on this regard, because we recall the president before him, I'm talking about President Muhammad Buhari, in his time, was tutored to have been what we call Baba Go Slow, because the service chief that was appointed July of 2015 in his time, they only got sacked on January 26, 2021, 5 years after appointment. And that was after widespread criticism and calls for a sack of the service chief. That means he wasn't even ready to change them. But we've seen the president who have done that within a space of, within 2 years, as the case may be. But for me, the question, like you asked or posed, is what significance, of what importance it is to our security architecture. For me, we've seen over time that the appointment or reappointment or reshuffling of service chief has done little or nothing to be able to deal with the security situation, the insecurity situation in the country, as it were. And there's a lot of reasons adduced to this, both man-made, as it were. And we'll talk about budget, defense, security, the amount of money being appropriated every year.
3.25 trillion rather this year.
If you look at it, it's an improvement from last year, but that is not even in terms of monetary terms. Yeah. But the point now is you begin to ask yourself, how does it translate to dealing with the security architecture, on ground? It has really not done much. And I would say there are a lot of reasons, because I was telling somebody that's sharing a joke the other day, even if you invite Archangel Michael, the Archangel, the general of God's army, as it were, as the good book says, it will still not change the security situation in Nigeria. We had bright men, like these people that, I've read through their CV,
General Christopher Musa.
Even the one that just left, Christopher Musa, and Lufemi, the current Chief of Defense Staff, CDS, and Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and all of them. They have wonderful credentials. They've, decorated military officers that have done very well. Yeah. But that's not the point. The point is, if you have a system that is bound to fail, a system that they have landmines that are bound to fail, no matter how good you are, no matter how decorated you are in the military, no matter how you've gone all over the world for missions, both in West Africa, sub-region, and internationally, when the system is bound to fail, there is nothing you can do. If you like, you change the service chiefs that do it. So we've seen little or nothing in the past, and I'm so sorry, so skeptical about even this reshuffling what difference will it make, even with the credentials of the new service chiefs?
Oh, wait. Okay, Engineer Meshach, since 1999, what I gathered is that Nigeria has had over 12 service chiefs across administrations. But, insecurity has only worsened. Do you think that this problem lies not just in the amount of monies rendered or the amount of reshuffling, but about leadership?
But basically, it's quite an unfortunate situation when you look at the contextual narrative about the issue of service chiefs. And added to your opening salvo, since 1999, Nigeria has been able to have retired over 582 generals. And that is very implicative on the Nigerian economy. These are generals that were trained with taxpayers' money and hard-earned money sent to the best military schools in UK, in Sandhurst in UK, in Pakistan, and of course continuous training and retraining of officers. But what of the rank and file? There are a lot of issues. Now, answering your questions, it borders more on the integrity of the security agencies in the discharge of their duties. Lack of accountability is a major problem, because if you look at the trajectory of the so-called changes from 1999 to date, when the new ones are brought in, they come with a lot of promises, they come with a lot of innuendos, a lot of military literature to boost their moods, to psych Nigerian public towards emotional blackmail. Yes, they are ready to nip insecurity in the bud. Nigeria is one of few countries I know that are more reactive instead of being preventive. And of course, I think it's a collective failure, not just in the leadership at the center, but in the military hierarchy. It is not removal of the service chief alone that would justify the circumstances under which it happened. But the truth is, what has been the prevailing situation about incoming service chief? Why have the service chief not performed? We should look at the fundamentals. The questions need to be asked. What is the underperformance that prompted the sacking of these service chiefs? You need to tell Nigerians for accountability's sake, so that we can trust the government. Were they part of the so-called, I wouldn't call it phantom coup, I don't know if there was a coup or not. Were they part of the conspiracy theory? Then why? If the services are to go, what about the National Security Advisor and this office structure? Because, I mean, it's all, if we are removing service chief, it's a collaboration of every individual that is involved with the security architecture of this country. So I think...
and in fairness to, if we want to talk about conspiracy thoughts here, the intelligence boss was not sacked. He was really...
that's where... that is where...
Does it mean that maybe he ratted out plans? People were thinking on social media. Let's talk about the controversy now. People were saying on social media, remember October 1, suddenly
there was no parade.
There was no parade. And that looked like the rain fell on our parade. People were angry about it. People had skepticism about it. And then next thing we saw, General Christopher Musa and his entourage, great men, were, should I say, sacked or reshuffled. Only one man was left there. That's the intelligence man.
Look,
it gives room for the controversial theories there.
No, the controversial theories are not misplaced, because I'm going to give you the morality. Now, the moral backing goes to how motivated are the rank and file in the field. You employ, you train and graduate military men out of NDA and the ones that the rank and file that are trained, and you send people that wouldn't have a knowledge of certain terrains to the northeast, for example. You send a lot of Southerners, they become collateral damage, and within the military, truth need to be told, there are a lot of fifth columnists within the military that sell out the military. But where I hold the military hierarchy accountable is how do they account for the over 3 trillion naira thereabout that is being budgeted annually for defense. Because if we have accountability, the bandits and the Boko Haram will not have more sophisticated weapons to counter our military prowess. They will not have better intelligence gathering than our military. We have the Directorate of Military Intelligence, the DMI. What are they doing about that? How proactive is the government? I have seen military men sew their military uniforms. As most of our security, they sew their uniforms themselves. The morale is low. Look at on social media, you are seeing deserters coming out to profile personal solutions, subjective solutions that, or rather objective solutions that can help in their prosecution of this, I call it a guerrilla warfare.
Okay.
But then the military hierarchy do not see things. Instead, you are bamboozled into a guard room and kept incommunicado for years.
Henry Wanze.
Yes, please.
We are talking about the conspiracy theories because I know that every conspiracy theorist now has their glasses on, on their laptop like some Hollywood movie, wondering really what happened really, what were the glitches. October 1, no parade, change of service chiefs, left only the intelligence boss there. Questions have been asked, and even the security advisor, left there, right? So questions have been asked, what's really going on? Do you think that maybe along the line something looked wrong? And then to add to that, the chief of defense staff is also from the same geopolitical zone as the president. People believe they have to get somebody that he can trust. What are your thoughts, basically?
Yeah, my thoughts are not different from the conspiracy theorists and those who have been spinning a lot of stories. But I think it's still early in the day for us to start imagining. I just think it's just a figment of our imagination, if you ask me, because I like to work on facts.
Yes.
I don't like to work on grabbing on straws, and as it were. I think it is not out of place for Nigerians to think that way, because if you shield information from the general public, you're bound to get news from the grapevine and begin to spin all kinds of stories.
Yes,
so I can quite understand that. And like I think it's Chino Achebe, yes, one of our respected writers of blessed memory, that's talked about the African adage that says when the owl cries at night and the child dies in the morning, it's an indication, what has happened. So of course, with this whole issue of this rumor of a coup d'etat or a botched coup or a rumored coup or whatever name you call it, and the sacking of the service chief and reshuffling, one could spin it that way. And the issue of getting his kinsman, as it were, he's from Ekiti State, from making him the CDS, as it were. I think there's nothing wrong in that, and this is not the first time we've seen that. And if you ask me, if I were to be the commander-in-chief, I would even prefer to put somebody I can trust, because if you look at the antecedents of Nigeria, most of the presidents that have had a turbulent time, like JTU Agui Ronsi, had that problem because he brought somebody from another geopolitical zone, and you know what happened, and the counter coup of 1966, he lost his life. So the president is doing everything I think any person should do to protect himself. I mean, a lot of people have said he's being selfish and all that. Yes, we could agree on that. And a lot of people have said he has not reacted when we've seen a lot of killings in Benue and some other parts of the northeast and other country, parts of the country, other regions of the country. Why is he now reacting now to the botch coup? Of course, the natural instinct of every human being is survival instinct. So he has to do everything he can to remain in power. But I must also say something very clear. If you like, you reshuffle the service chiefs. If you like, you remove them or execute them for, what will still happen will still happen. If it's written in the stars that such and such a thing would happen, it doesn't matter whether you reshuffle the service chiefs or not.
What can be written in the stars?
No, what I mean is, if it is written, I don't want to be Nostradamus.
Yeah.
If it is written that there's going to be a coup, as it were, and the coup is going to be successful, nothing you and I can do to stop it. We can only pray it doesn't happen, and we can only pray that it doesn't affect the stability of the country, like we always say, because what is paramount is Nigeria, to make sure that Nigeria is stable. And that's what we've prayed for unbroken, years of democracy. It's for the good of Nigerians. Yes, you may not like the government in play. A lot of people have said the way and manner they came in and, what has done to Nigerians. But you and I agree that democracy still remains the best form of government. I mean democracy, not our own type of democracy.
Exactly.
We must really clear, because our own type of democracy is debatable. So I can say it is not a place for people to think what they're thinking, but I think it is too early in the day to think, this has got to do with the rumor. Of course, Nigerians, they've not really, I think we should hold our leaders accountable. They should be able to tell us the truth and stop, making us guess. And when you give us on the guessing game, of course, we begin to spin a lot of conspiracy theories, like just the one, we are spinning.
Giving bloggers things to write on, reporters things to play on, and the rest of them.
Of course.
Could be really funny. And then if you talk about the new service chiefs, I think they might have a job already today, because on the news this morning, we saw a headline that said that, House of Reps member members are concerned about a bomb threat.
Well, definitely in FCT, not
Yes.
in Delta State.
Yes.
And
In
definitely
Abuja.
not on the other state. It has to be the
National
FCT.
Assembly, they are
Yeah.
threatening that it's going to be bombed. Does
Okay,
it
the National Assembly.
Yes, does it show that there is any strength in the service chiefs? If they were threatened, I was speaking to Meshach Oza, he reviewed the paper this morning, I said, I gave it a little analogy of a child, who threatens to use a stone at you, an adult. Would you run away? Would you feel threatened? Or
Let
would you
me
contain
stop
the child?
there by this our adage in my own native parlance that it is only a tree that will see they want to cut it and remain standing. Nobody stands when you are told. And that is why it's very funny when I see things like this. Things like this are intelligent. It's not something you just bring out to the public.
They got information, intelligence report that there would be a bombing.
Act on it.
And it's on the papers.
Yes.
They're threatened.
Act
so
on
I'm
it.
concerned.
Don't stop telling us that. Act on it, and this thing can be done discreetly and can be done, surreptitiously. You don't need to bring it in public. Are you trying to play to the gallery? That's the way I see it. Intelligence is something that you don't bring out, to the public. You are telling us that, and you cause a lot of panic in the system. Act on it. Like I said, rightly said, we are very good. Leadership at all levels are very reactive rather than being proactive. And that is part of the reasons why we are facing these insecurity threats and here and there, and even the insecurity situation in the country. Because I want to believe that is the reason why some of us are against this issue of the DSS, making it a political, an executive arm, of the government. Because the real thing you're supposed to do is work on intelligence. When you get intelligence, act on it. Don't come and start, clamping on, political opponents as the case may be. Your job is intelligence gathering. Even the police or security apart, intelligence gathering. Make sure you curb it before it rears its ugly head. Then you can now begin to give us the results when it is done.
Yeah.
And don't start telling us, okay, it's like you're telling us now, what do you want the insurgents or these so-called terrorists to do? And that's why I have a problem. You talk about the issue of terrorism financiers. We saw that throughout the tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari, and nothing, not even any of the names, even those who were mentioned, none of them were prosecuted. And you've not done due diligence, you've not really investigated, you are out calling out the names of these persons. You should have gotten your facts and you swoop on these persons. That's my problem with the way we do things in this country.
Now, looking at this, Engineer Meshach, public confidence as regards the military dropped last year to 27%, and we can see why it should drop right now. If honorable members are being threatened by terrorists, and it's on the front pages this morning, you can see why it's dropping. So how can these new service chiefs, change this narrative?
Quite unfortunate. I'll give you the answer, but I want to build up from what the National Assembly has said. They are concerned now. So are they telling us that insurgencies and the mayhem that we have seen in the different geopolitical zones in the last 2 years is not worthy of concern for the National Assembly? Because they are seeing what probably has happened in Cameroon, and they have seen that the bandits and of course the hoodlums, the kidnappers are beginning to get closer.
I think I'm not comfortable with the word bandits because the Buhari government mentioned the word bandits. They are
No,
terrorists.
they
They
are
should be called
they are
what they
terrorists,
are.
yes. The
Please.
terrorists are getting
Let them call the names,
closer to Abuja, and they are beginning to get scared. If truly they are representatives, and we have people that have been killed every day in this country, from Benue State to Katsina State to Plateau State to Anambra State to Imo State to Edo State, you name it, to Delta State, to the whole of this country. And of course, yesterday I heard in the news that this community in Katsina, says Jera community, has been taken over by bandits. And in Niger State, some local government have been taken over by bandits. That was not an issue of concern for members of the National Assembly. That goes to show you the level of unseriousness and selfishness on the part of our administrators or legislators, as the case may be. These are people that have in their domain close to over 100,000 policemen, shared amongst them, their wives, their family members of the National Assembly. Now, if you have that much, which will be how many policemen is left to govern Nigeria? You see, bad leadership is a major problem. So now we're looking at the security architecture critically. Removal of the service chief does not solve the problem. The problem is fundamental. It is institutional, and it can be transformed for effectiveness. Now, but the truth is, within the system, the military system, we're mentioning something very, very important, and I want to throw more light on it. Now, we talked about intelligence gathering. Intelligence gathering I must give credit to the DSS in terms of intelligence gathering and the DMI, Directorate of Military Intelligence. They do a lot of work in terms of intelligence gathering. Now, where does the problem lie? Now, when these people get their intelligence and they submit, they have bosses. They submit the intelligence gathered to their bosses. The bosses have bosses. You see the trajectory. They submit it to probably the commander of a command or a brigade, and that one would have to submit it to the chief of army staff and the national security advisor. 90% of some of this intelligence gathered, when it is contrary to their own personal opinion or contrary to their own personal party affiliation, they don't act on it. There's so much intelligence that have been gathered that would have helped this country, would have nipped this situation in the bud, but they don't act on it. We have seen deserters, even those that are not deserted, throw more light on this on social media when they come out to complain that certain times they want to react, but high command calls come and tell them stay action. When they have said it that they can run over the terrorists within the twinkle of an eye, even with their substandard machinery, but because they are organized, they are fighting guerrillas. These are infantry trained soldiers. Now, but that thing doesn't happen because the center, the power at the center, do not give authority for them to act. So I do not blame those that gather intelligence. I blame the policy makers who have the authority who are supposed to act, to give order for them to act. Most times they withhold those orders, and these guys are left handicapped, and that is a major inhibiting factor towards the success of fighting these insurgents. Now, finally, I want to look at a very, very important issue that a lot of us don't understand: the service chiefs. Now, I have seen that there's a lot of discontent within the 3, 4, 5 arms of our military architecture. The army, when the army calls on the Air Force for cover, most times we hear that they didn't get cover from the Air Force. Meanwhile, the infantry soldiers are on the floor trying to build a movement. We're not talking of Navy now because they are not really much involved in this act, in this fight against the terrorists. They're more of fighting piracies and all that. But then, the military structure is faulty from the presidency down, the national security advisors, and all that, until they tell themselves the truth.
What's the truth?
The truth is that people in government are involved.
Okay, now let's talk about this involvement.
That's another conspiracy.
Let's talk about the involvement.
Yes, conspiracy theory.
Beyond conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
I have to look at my pad a little bit and read it all out. According to Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, that's the NFIU, analysis for 2020 to 2021, 96 financiers of terrorism were identified. 424 associates and supporters were flagged. 123 companies and 33 bureau de change were linked to terrorism financing. That's not all. As of 3rd February 2022, the government said 123 companies plus 33 bureau de change operators had been linked to terrorism financing activity. The National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, reported in July this year that Nigeria had prosecuted over 730 terrorism-related cases, including terrorism financing, and secured convictions in more than 90 of them with the direct help of NFIU. Now, these are figures here and there, and it's even surprising to hear about the cases that were actually handled per se. But the numbers, they're a lot.
Staggering.
And we don't know.
And you know, it's
don't
okay.
hear about them.
I think it's okay to hear about replacement or sack of service chiefs and replacement.
About the
But I think what's more even okay is that beyond hearing, because as a student of communication, we were taught at some point that you don't overly broadcast news of terrorism activities, that is exactly what terrorists want. Where they are glorious, where they're defeated, it builds their confidence and morale to keep on, because they want to get the attention you're giving them. So sometimes systematic journalism means you might shield that story from the people.
Yeah.
But if we have stories about financiers, they should be on the front pages of the tabloids. They should be in court. We should be talking about them.
We don't want
even on the faculty.
I don't want it to be on the page of the newspaper. Let me tell you, I do not stand for that. I stand for the fact, tell me the persons that you have prosecuted.
Exactly what I'm talking about. They should have been on the tabloids.
I know said something now. During the Buhari era, we've had so many cases of calls for, yes, we'll soon publish names.
Yes.
And now you've seen the number, very staggering and worrisome. The point is, we are tired of that. We want to be able to say, okay, so and so bureau, they change operatives, blah, 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 and the rest of them have been closed down, and these persons have been prosecuted, the case has been caught, just like we're hearing the case of Nnamdi Kanu now that is dragging forever, the case of Emefiele and the rest of them that is dragging forever. We want to hear these cases. We want to see them tried. We want to see these persons, being jailed or imprisoned, or if it's capital punishment. No, we don't do capital punishment. Let it be such that it will be a deterrent to others. Stop telling us that you have how many cases. The NFIU is also complicit as far as I'm concerned, and whoever is responsible for gathering those intelligence or those names, they are also complicit. We are tired of it.
Show us the names. Take them to court.
We don't want their names. Take them to court.
We have a judiciary.
Just like we're seeing all these people now that are being prosecuted for financial crimes and that. Take them to court, prosecute them, and not just take them to court. If you are very sure about this, I want to believe before you brought down their names, you've been able to gather enough facts, because that's the problem we have. You are supposed to do due diligence and ensure that you have an ironclad case against this person, because these persons, they are no minions, they are no underlings. These are very powerful figures, powerful individuals that are even stronger than the system. So for you to be able to win this kind of case against people, you must have a very ironclad, you must be able to build a prima facie evidence against these persons, so that when you charge them to court, you will not be, when you stand before a judge and you're not able to defend yourself, an ironclad case. So that is the point, and this has been the problem. Over time we hear this kind of cases, and that's why it's like a reoccurring decimal. It will continue to happen because these same persons who sponsor terrorism are still in the system, and very much as it has been rumored in many areas, that many of them are even in government. They hold the levers of power in both the three tiers of government and in the three arms of government. So the point is not until these persons are being made to face the music, it will still continue. So it's just a waste of time. If you like, you change the service chief, like I said. If you like, you bring Archangel Michael. This same thing will still happen as far as we are not ready to deal with this issue from the root.
Engineer Meshach, he said something which struck me. Perhaps they are not sure about these names, these figures they've mentioned. They don't have pure evidence against them. Do you think that that's the case, or perhaps politically orchestrated, that they would not, reveal these names, and beyond revealing these names, take them to court for continuous trials and the rest until they put them in prison, so to speak?
They have these names. They know these people.
Do they have the facts? Yeah?
They have the facts.
Do you think they do?
They have the political will to execute and interpret the legal procedure towards tackling this issue is part of the problem. Now, when they come now, you're fighting a war with the same people that orchestrated the war. It becomes very difficult to nip that war in the bud. That is where former state governors have been named, senators have been named, traditional rulers have been named. But you see, when Nigeria plays a kind of politics of by proxy, I beg, it's my person and my person, Mona religion and my brother, it's our state as well. We bring ethnicity into judicial procedure, we bring religion into judicial procedure, we bring quota system into judicial procedure, and that is those are some of the things that are killing us. We have an institutional failure that's premised on the lack of accountability. If people have been held accountable for so many, this situation would have been nipped in the bud. You and I have seen videos on social media where helicopters were dropping arms, dropping food supplies, dropping ammunition, dropping money to these bandits. And I was shocked last week. I saw the same on social media where tanker went to supply fuel to these terrorists with in their machines and jerry cans in the forest. Where did these tankers drive through? When the helicopters must have an helipad, or they park in an heliport within the airport. I mean, they must have clearance to fly, and people will know when they're flying, when they are loading or unloading. So, I mean, there's so many.
And even if they are going to go via the road, they should have.
Yes, so there are so many questions that need to be answered. That's why, if for anything, there's one thing I miss Sani Abacha for. He said that if Nigeria lasts for more than 2 hours, then we have a government. And importantly, we must emphasize this fact without. With due respect to the government in power, we have had situations where past governments prior to election have come out to state that former president did make mention of that if Nigeria will make Nigeria ungovernable if whatever. Now let's understand a fundamental issue. Our borders are porous, and because of ethnic bigots within the ruling class, within the ruling leadership of this country, the three arms of government, it has become difficult for accountability processes. Majority of these insurgents are from across the Lake Chad Basin. They come infiltrated into the country, and they have free access. Now, this insurgency started in the northwest, but now it has come into the north central. It has come into the south.
Abuja has been threatened.
Abuja has been threatened. I am so happy that the National Assembly has come out to cry wolf. This is a cry for help. But why were they not crying wolf when Nigerians were being kidnapped between Kaduna Abuja Road, when Nigerians were being kidnapped from Nsukka through Benue, Kogi Axis, when Nigerians were being kidnapped in Niger Delta region, when Nigerians were being killed in the southeast? They didn't raise a bit an eyelid in the National Assembly. And now, because they are seeing that it's becoming too close for comfort, they are beginning to raise a bit an eyelid. So it's quite unfortunate. There's a conspiracy somewhere within the corridors of power. Let them fight themselves first. I mean, because leading to the 2027 election, a can of worms will be open.
We have an issue of data sharing when it comes to defense intelligence in the country. Yet the intelligence boss, Ndode, was left to continue handling the hem of affairs in that area, while everybody else was pushed away. Do you think he deserved to remain there?
I wouldn't know to be able to give him the scorecard. Who deserves to be there or who doesn't deserve to be there? All of them are capable of their jobs, even General Musa.
But you agree that data sharing has been a problem?
I was going to say that, yeah, it's an important and integral part of the security architecture to work at all levels.
And that should have been his job.
Intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing, very important.
Yes.
Because he said something now, it shows that there is no synergy between the military architecture, in terms of the Navy, the Air Force, and even the military, as the army, as it were, the Nigerian army. Even when it comes to joint military patrol, we talk about the police and other, security agencies. Because we tend to see that, how will I put it now, kind of showing of muscle of, struggle for power and rest. It shouldn't be so, because they are all for one purpose, which to ensure to protect the territorial integrity in the territorial waters, the territorial land and borders of Nigeria and the citizens of Nigeria by extension. So what it means is that if you do not gather enough intelligence, if you have been able to gather intelligence and not able to share it with all, the security, the apparatus, there's bound to be problem, because you people are not supposed to be working at cross purposes, because that is part of the problem. When you people are working at cross purposes, this one is following in one direction. There's no unity of purpose. There is no way you can defeat an enemy that is determined, an enemy that is well trained. These are mercenaries who are ready to shed blood. Like I said, people, I think I agree. Most of them are not Nigerians, as it were, because I don't think a Nigerian will be ready to kill his own brother. And so that's why I want to also believe he also has an international dimension. I think there was also the news prior to this time about the ISWAP. There was a plan that ISWAP was going to cause a lot of mayhem and all that before this particular war. So even the Western world also have a role to play, because what I would like to know, even if you go into countries like Sudan, South Sudan, that even liberated or rather got independence from Sudan, there is still war. You begin to ask yourself, what happened? You've gotten your referendum, you're now free. Because there are powers, Western powers, who are interested in anarchy, in chaos in these countries. Why? Because these arms are being sold by them. And that is the only way they can make money. If there are no crises, if there are no wars in these areas, they won't be able to sell their arms. So it's a whole gamut of, how will I put it now? It has different dimensions why these things still happen. And this issue, that's why I've always had this issue of having to have some persons who they call them, as it were, repentant Boko Haram. And you now put them, without even kind of proper assessment, mental evaluation and even psychiatric evaluation and even knowing, and put them in the military. And you expect these persons to now fight against their former comrade in arms. Their loyalties will be divided, whether we like them. And I want to say before I forget, why there are calls for also state police, there should also be calls for state military, or whatever name you call it, state army and cases. Because we have cases where our southern brothers have been sent to the fringes, to the belly of the shark, to the northern area. And we see these people from the north, all over the south.
Don't understand.
And that is the epicenter of where the whole thing is happening. So I think there should be a change where we have our southern brothers come over to this area, where we have these northern people go back to their areas to go and, if I tell you a confession of one of the military guys, I'm sure he has gone and whoa now, then we're just sitting somewhere, and he said, you know, it gets to a point at night. What they do, they dig up shallow graves and bury themselves inside the grave throughout the night and find a way of breathing till the next morning so that they will protect themselves from not dying. Because they are sent in, those places. There's no proper, machinery to be able to fight these people who are well organized and who have, sophisticated weapons to be able to deal with them. And sometimes, because of this intelligence that we're talking about now, they are ambushed. Many of them have lost their lives. Not that these people are well trained. All they require is motivation. All they require is adequate arms and ammunitions. All they require is support from the top echelon and the political will. And these persons are not ghosts, are not people who are like the behemoth or Leviathan that they cannot be defeated.
It's all right. Now, looking at all these things we're talking about, Engineer Meshack, given the, how do I describe it, evolving nature of crime, cyber terrorism, AI-enabled propaganda and the likes, do you think our military is now sophisticated, or if we're still working on obsolete tradition in our methods in combating terrorism and the likes?
But we're still very much obsolete in our methods because we don't utilize intelligence gathered to maximize them. And of course, we have not been able to synergize the different security architecture and agencies to work in unison. Have you ever watched or seen a situation where the U.S. military is fighting with the U.S. police on the street, or the U.S. traffic officers are fighting? But you have seen civil defense and police fight, road safety and police fight, army and police fight. I mean, that is the height of impunity for a nation that is supposed to be the giant of Africa. We do not reflect that word, the giant of Africa, to the rest of Africa and to the world in the right sense as it states. We should be excelling in all areas of democracy and leadership and all that. And quite unfortunate, because what we are seeing today is a product of leadership failure at all levels of government. And security, why it pains me so much, I know how much is invested in training of our officers. And we've lost a lot of gallant officers, young majors and captains, brigadier generals, to ambush, to better trained guerrilla warfare. Needless death. And I ask a fundamental question. I schooled in the north. Most of the north is grassland. Now, for these people to have been able, the terrorists to have been able to infiltrate through the fringes of the Lake Chad Basin, they have come to the epicenter of Nigeria's 527,000 plus square kilometers. It tells you something that the borders are porous. And the road is porous, only for people to be, transporters to be exploited, when you see these individuals move their trucks, they move their arms and ammunitions, and all that, nothing is being said about it. And for the sense of urgency, we need to act on. We don't need to act on impulse. We need to be proactive instead of being reactive. The state of insecurity is a product of bad intelligence gathered information implementation. Now, what is the role of the Air Force? Have you ever seen that? Are you telling me we don't have Air Force or we don't have police air wing, that in the cases of terrorists attacking villages, that they cannot over these villages? And what right, if you as a civilian put on a military uniform, you are beaten to the pulp? But I watched in Jera, the commanders that took over that village, Jera in Katsina State, they were wearing military uniform with arms and ammunition, discussing with our military agencies.
And they were wearing,
yes, and with arms and ammunition. So, I mean, do we have a certain law for a certain group of terrorists different for, I think intellectual terrorists have their own group of law. They are the people that are really being attacked because the government feels that those ones can manipulate the intellectuals. But meanwhile, the so-called ignorant, manipulated terrorists, those ones are like zombies, those ones are accepted. And they keep annexing territories, annexing local government areas, and we have a security architecture that has failed. The biggest problem within security is the lack of a central command base. And that is why the National Security Advisor should have gone with the service chiefs.
All right, let's look at this too. In fairness to what you have said, we have over 140 aircraft now. Many of them are even grounded. The population of Nigeria is 250 million people. And you can imagine how many people that 140 aircraft would cover. if we have spent over 3.5
You don't need to
trillion
provide
naira?
it. You should use. You should
Right
when-
now.
Listen, let me tell you
Ask
where I have
yourself
an issue.
questions.
When there's a fire in Delta State Fire Service, when they are called, they move immediately. But when there's a security insurgency, the military is called. It becomes a problem. When the military calls the Air Force for cover up on the infantry to move, Air Force will tell you a different story. So there is no synergy working.
Let's go to the river now and talk about the Navy boss, Rear Admiral Abbas. He's right there now. We lose 400,000 barrels of oil per day in the country. What can this man do to curb oil theft? Because now we're talking about money now. I mean, when River State had a little crisis, there was a state of emergency. He had 400,000 barrels per day. That should have helped the country stand up on its own.
You see, that's why I say, let me reiterate it again for the benefit of our viewers. That even if Archangel Michael comes to
The
Nigeria,
system will make him
he
fail.
will not be able to do anything because the system is bound to fail.
Who are the people that?
I wanted to say it. Who are those
that
who are
steal
involved in
oil,
this
this oil
bunkering
bunkering.
or this oil theft?
Who are the people?
You know, this term oil theft has been going on in our lexicon for how many
decades.
years? These persons are not ghosts. They know them. They are top military people. They are top politicians. They are people, power brokers who hold the levers of power in this country. So, like, the only truth about this is about political will. If we do not have leaders who are ready, who have the balls to go after these persons, which are not strange to us, who are not ghosts to us, it will continue. There is little or nothing Abbas will be able to do, any other person who comes after him. Because the very issues are still, when we talk about this issue of infiltration, we are listening to be focused on only the military and even on the north. Even in Delta State, do you know, like we're talking about the issue of borders, on a daily basis, trucks of in cattle or whatever comes in, and there are individuals who are smuggled every single day coming from the north part of the country to Delta.
But they have freedom of movement.
Hold on. Okay. It is not about, it's about how porous we are.
Yeah.
That truck is not supposed to bring in human beings, but that truck is meant for cattle or for goods and services, and not individuals. But we have a situation where these trucks, where these trucks are being used as camouflage to carry these items, and individuals are smuggled. And you know one bad thing, because those in Niger and Chad, they speak one common language, like they speak the Hausa language, and they all blended. We've seen a case of many of them who have been accustomed. I was in Cross River State, Ecom, the other day for a wedding of a colleague of mine. It shares a boundary with Cameroon. There are a lot of people who infiltrate from Cameroon into Nigeria, but you have people in the Nigerian immigration service that see them on a daily basis. Some of them still get through because of, some of them will pay their way and go. These are things that happen on a daily basis. Not until we're able to deal with the issue of our borders, like you said. Even in all our states of infiltration, the focus is not only on Abuja, even in Delta State, on a daily basis. I can tell you, I come from Ibuza, I can tell you, we see a lot of them coming every day. If you go to the expressway, you see a lot of them. I begin to wonder, where are they coming from? How have we been able to profile those individuals? And because the way they stay, I know there was a time Delta State government tried to do something about profiling people. I think it was Ushule North and the rest of them. These scavengers who go in terms of wheelbarrow, they stopped doing that. Now they are carrying bags. They just change their modus operandi. They are still operating. How many of them are being profiled? And there was a time they said all of them should leave the bushes and come and live in houses. You know. How has it been done? How has it been implemented? So these are the people, because whether we like it or not, we tend to be focusing on maybe the big fishes. The underlings and the minions are the people that they are also using to gather intelligence and to scope the area to understand how the terrain is. And when they've been able to gather enough intelligence, all in the name of being as scavengers or cobblers and the rest of them, you look them as honorary cobblers or scavengers. Most of them are spies being used to be able to gather enough intelligence. And before you know what's happening, you cause menace in the area. So these are the issues that we need to look into. You know, I just think we lack political. Our leaders lack political at all levels. It's not also the amount of money you pump into defense or appropriate every year. It's not in the service chiefs. These are not the issue. There are a lot of things, and some of our officers are demotivated. Many of them who have lost their lives. What has been done about them and their families?
Our time is almost up. Before we say goodbye, talking about that brought another conversation entirely, which might even take us lots of time. Basically, other military ex-military personnel, they came to complain as well. Look at the things, the packages you are giving to these ex-chiefs, and look at the way you have left us.
Okay.
Is that not a problem about the kind of motivation that the current soldiers would have right now?
These are the ones
Demotivation.
that are alive. I'm talking about those who have already passed on, who have their blood, their sweat and tears. Many of them, their widows now are in squalor, they are in penury, their children are suffering. You just do 21 gun salute or whatever it is that you do.
I've gotten my
So
final
now
say.
you that is alive, how would you feel? So you rather desert or go away because you don't want to face the same way.
Henry Wanse, Engineer Beshak Osa, thank you so much. I'll let you know that there is an ongoing screening for the service chiefs at the Senate right now. We hope that some of these thoughts we've had right here
We've had
conversed
screenings.
right there.
It doesn't
And we hope
change.
that
It's just an academic
It's just an
exercise.
academic exercise.
I believe in heaven more than hell, so I believe that we'll have a better story to tell as time goes on. Basically, thank you, gentlemen. It's always a privilege having conversation with you. Our faculty is very high, our reasoning faculty precisely, and the faculty returns tomorrow right here on Delta Television, The People's Pride. You have to tune in at 12 o'clock. In fact, stay on this station, Delta Television, The People's Pride. My name is Francis Ofulue. Good afternoon. Goodbye.
What a discussion.